Mohandas Namishrai, Dr. Srinivas Rao, and my distinguished, I thank Sahitya Academy for organizing this Dalit Writers Meet. Let me tell you very frankly my experience that Ambedkar is not accepted even today by Indian community as a whole. It is not accepted. See, he was architect of the Indian Constitution and he was this and he was that, etc. It's okay. The essence of Ambedkar, the legacy of Ambedkar, the values for Ambedkar fought are not accepted by Indian community at large. Constitution is accepted as a matter of fact completely because it is the basic law of the country. That's why you can't say. That is also being now attacked for various reasons at various junctures by various vested interests. But then I was addressing one meeting in Sadashivpet, where Chitpan Brahmins are staying in Pune. कि जो आप लोग बोलते हैं कि अम्बेडकर जी इतने महान थे वगैरह, have you ever celebrated? I asked Chitpan Brahmins in Pune, have you? You are saying Buddha, great person. Why didn't you convert to Buddhism? If Buddha is so great. I mean, these are the issues. I mean, we should confront, and then because this is a society which is characterized by hypocrisy, Dhongivad. That society can't produce anything substantially. Not a single political intellectual leader can come to the stature of Ambedkar either during his own time or even after his departure. And still Ambedkar today, for the rest of the is nothing more than untouchable. Even after dealing with economics for 40 years, that's why there is no question of saying that I know something. But then I think as a concerned citizen, as one who appreciates contribution of Dalit literature to the Indian literature, I don't say Indian mainstream literature, because had it been mainstream literature, Dalit literature would not have been necessary at all. यदि वो mainstream literature होता तो दलित literature की आवश्यकता नहीं होती. Dalit literature is a protest literature, as we know. It is a protest against, that is the defining characteristic of Dalit literature. As people write something, either prose, poetry, novels, stories, and even any form of art, it's form of art, okay? It has got its spontaneity, but this spontaneity arose at historical time. Let us forget for time being what Chokhamela was writing, or Sant Rohidas was writing for that matter. It is a protest literature, and mainly protest against the exploitation, the deprivation, inequality, and discrimination caused essentially by caste. This means, suppose that caste has not been there, would it have been possible to create Dalit literature? The most important conceptual reality and ideological apparatus was caste. Caste is academic category, analytical category, ideological category, and tangible. It has several forms at a time. This caste is Ambedkar called monster. He said that no reforms are possible. Anywhere you go, any way you go, you will have to cross this monster. And unless you kill this, no social reform, no political reforms are possible. Second, by definition, every protest literature has to be aggressive. Third is Ambedkar's philosophy and the movement for the emancipation of the untouchables is the basic inspirational source of Dalit literature. It means he has the entire source. Now I'm saying this largely because the other day I was reading anthology of literature in South India, Telugu and Tamil. It is outstanding book published, I think, by Sahitya Academy. No, it is published by Rawlings. And because there I came to know that Kannada literature to some extent is inspired by Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia. Tamil literature is largely influenced by Periyar. Kerala to some extent by Narayan Guru. Because different state, different region, different languages, different socio-cultural reform movements were shaped by different persons. For example, Ambedkar considered Phule as his guru. This is one of the greatness of Ambedkar. Phule is virtually non-material. On one hand, Ambedkar accepted Buddha, the ultimate word of wisdom, and on the other hand, semi-literate Phule. So when I used to go for Ambedkar Jayanti, Buddhist people foolishly used to keep Phule's statue lower than Ambedkar, forgetting the fact that Phule was much greater than Ambedkar. That because of course, no doubt about it. Because he kept Phule is on par with Buddha and Kabir. So I was to keep Ambedkar above Phule. If at all you do not want to keep above Ambedkar, and above Ambedkar himself put Phule above him, accept him Guru. So at least keep on the straight, same way. At par. They used to give Ambedkar above and Phule below. Ambedkar's criticism of Hindu social order during his times and Phule's criticism of Hindu social order during his times, Phule was much ahead of Ambedkar, if we tell frankly. And had Ambedkar not been there, Phule would have confined to fish market, vegetable market and food market, because being Mali, Mali community. Okay? Because Ambedkar brought him and made him big. Now with Ambedkarism, or if we call Ambedkarism, generally one has to be very careful while using the word Ambedkarism, because ism has different connotation. इन्होंने तो ideological orientation to the Dalit literature, symbols, forms and norms of Brahminical value system. If we open any literary form about or written by Dalits anywhere, first of all, I do not know where Dalits consider that. No, Dalit means ex-untouchables. Tribals were not untouchables. Tribals were excluded. Untouchables, earlier depressed classes, 1935 they were scheduled, that's why scheduled caste, but they were. Now if Dalit literature is the literature produced by Dalits only, that by untouchable, former untouchables, now Buddhist, or untouchables, those who are not Buddhist. Because what happens is sometimes there is dialogue. People will say that Dalit literature is the expression of the exploitation of all depressed and all oppressed in the whole world. Baburao Bagul used to say. But Raja Ali would say that I do not want Dalit word. Now let me tell you very frankly, whatever I understand word Dalit in the historical context, I stand for 100% solidly for the Dalit literature. Marathi मध्ये we call it Dalit means hatbal, Dalit means hapless, Dalit means totally useless. The word Dalit doesn't connote that. It connotes that in all walks of life, social, cultural, those who are disadvantaged, those we deprived of property, wealth, prestige, respect, identity, all, blacks will be considered as Dalits, and Dalit will be considered as black if we want to have parallel analytical category. So that is rejection of symbols, all symbols, whatever we may write. Now literature also is a symbol of the value before Dalit literature came on the scene. I would say rather, with all limited knowledge that I have, Dalit literature is the first onslaught in the literary form on the pre-Dalit literature, which was symbol, which was expression, which was experience and manifestation, what Brahminical values stood for. And that is why we all know, Lakshman is here, that in the stalwart Marathi writers rejected separate identity of Dalit literature. They used to say that एक सब लिटरेचर एक ही होना चाहिए, इसमें अलग अलग लिटरेचर की आवश्यकता क्या है? Now why Dalit, the modern Dalit literature, as we mentioned earlier, generation like say 16th, 15th centuries, 7th, 8th centuries, Chokha Mela, Saint Literate. Let me call modern Dalit literature. I can easily find out. Literally it is post-independence. And again, its development is uneven. In different parts, different regions, different cultures. Maharashtra, for example, Baburao Bagul, M.N. Wankhede, they started, Gangadhar Panthavne, etc., etc. Then second generation came Namdev Dasar, Lakshman Mane, Lakshman Gaikwad, etc. Okay, it is a phenomenon of early 70s. Now here, I do not think whether to what extent Dalit writers are taking cognizance of Marxian sociological perspective of literature. Why is it that modern Dalit literature did not begin immediately after independence, not immediately early 50s, not early 60s? Why it came on the scene? Earlier it might be concealed, disguised form. वो पृष्ठभाग पर 1970s के दरमियान सिर्फ क्यों आया? Its explanation could be found only in Marxism, and that I put as follows. Ambedkar provided individual, intellectual, iconic inspiration for creating Dalit literature, but that was not enough. After independence, material conditions of Dalits, because of several welfare policies that the government adopted, those material conditions underwent a change. Let us take Marathi literature before Dalit literature. Who are the people who created that literature? Who was Khandekar? Who was Phadke? Who was Madkolkar? If you take the entire genealogy of Marathi literature, right from Haribabu Apte, they came from well-to-do, middle-class, lower middle-class, urban families. Lenin used to call this objective conditions, objective, real conditions. That's why post-independence welfare economic policy benefited sections of the Dalit society, some fits. What are the tensions of caste? Caste is not the same today as it was in 1947. I earlier said about the ascriptive role of caste. Caste was designing occupational structure, generally, okay? And people were very happy with that. And that ascription was internalized. And I give you Chokhamela's example. And Ambedkar did not use the word ascription, though. But then let me tell you, the greatest strength of the exploiting sections of the society, एक्सप्लॉयटेशन करने वाले, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन करने वाले लोगों की सबसे बड़ी ताकत यदि कोई होगी तो imbibing in the minds of the exploited sections that exploitation is legitimate. Earlier, when it began, Dalit literature was reflecting के तौर पर discontent and dissent with the system. Now, Namdev Dasar used to write, Namdev सर्व काही समष्टीसाठी, he used to write column. I mean, his whole, it's most unfortunate that he passed away, but we couldn't help it. We call in economics aggregate level. At societal level, there was discontent. Okay? At the call in economics, aggregate level of all. And this was, it began with assertion. At that there was no, it was caste one identity, caste one mechanism, caste one reality at the aggregate level without going into further substrata. Gaddar has the poem that I brought, the assertion, and this assertion is at the aggregate level. Pure Dalit community ka, this what I am saying now is, this is the feeling and expression of our entire Dalit community across the country, language, etc., etc. And what he says, youngsters built like weightlifters, well-versed in martial arts as well as education, to belittle and denigrate them, to mind their language. They wear sparkling white clothes, moving their Hamlet like jasmines. Into inverted comma, we may not own property, but we have self-respect, they say. When we sip coffee sitting on a chair, rich lords seethe with anger. They can't tolerate that. Even today, Gram Panchayat Dalit lady occupies the seat of the chairperson, Gram Panchayat Sarpanch. She doesn't dare to. I had gone to Chhattisgarh as member of Planning Commission. Hundreds of villages in this country I have gone. Hundreds of villages. And presided over Gram Panchayat meeting. What exactly is happening? The position of women in Dalit literature. Where exactly they stand. Because woman is again a tangible reality, not only physical reality, it is different entity altogether. Emotional, psychological, material, cultural, it is universe. In my Myasa Gadlo, I have written this. Lakshman Mane can bear with me. But I have written that men and women, both of them, they work for the sustenance of the family. Man is the main breadwinner. The land is in the name of a man. And I said in the parliament once, all land should be made in the registered names of the women. Because women discovered agriculture. When I studied Discourse of Human Civilization, the agriculture was discovered by women. But not a single inch of land today in the name of women. Okay? So my point is, मी असं म्हटलं आहे मी असा घडलो मध्ये की both men and women they work for the family, but still I will distinguish between them, and I consider whatever work woman is doing, it is I value more than that of men. आणि पुढे मी असं म्हटलेलं, नेक्स्ट आय सेड, स्त्री ही सृष्टीची निर्माती आहे. सी इज द क्रिएटर ऑफ द होल युनिवर्स. आणि म्हणून स्त्री समोर नतमस्तक होतो. I bow down in front of every woman in the world, not only Dalit and not only Maharashtra and India. Now what happens is, if you feel that contemporary Dalit literature is at the crossroad, if somebody feels, then why it is, one can find out number of reasons. But one immediate symmetrical reason comes to my mind is, whatever was happening to pre-Dalit mainstream literature, say Marathi, with limited experience, same thing might be happening to Dalit literature, your limited experience. What we are doing basically is, or may be doing, we are depicting the living conditions of Dalits. Now whatever forms you are giving, but then depicting Dalits' living conditions, segregated life, their anguish, their descent, their miserable misery, their deprivation, their discrimination, their being subordinate, hereafter would lead Dalit literature any further. Any literature, for that matter any art, must also undergo of explaining the process of the social transformation. And Indian society is getting transformed in some respect positive manner, in some respect negative manner. This is the last point. Indian constitution accepts Indian nationalism. Today we are in the era of, since I am in Sahitya Academy, I refrain from speaking what otherwise I would speak outside, or I have been speaking rather outside. Now Indian nationalism, भारतीय राष्ट्रवाद, जो भारतीय घटना का एक मूलाधार है, that भारतीय राष्ट्रवाद, हिंदी राष्ट्रवाद, not Hindu राष्ट्रवाद, is being replaced by cultural nationalism. That will finish you. If today Indian nationalism is replaced by Hindu nationalism, you won't be able to write anything. Because what you have been writing in the form of Dalit literature for the last 50 years, that will not be simply allowed to be printed. Because what values you are standing for and what Hindu nationalism stands for, they are basic contradictions. Constructing Chaitya-bhumi in Mumbai, or purchasing Ambedkar's house in London, or purchasing, building Ambedkar International Memorial in Delhi, that is not Ambedkarism. Ambedkarism means the values, liberty, equality, fraternity. Dalit literature is the anguish which is trying to establish Indian society on the three eternal principles of liberty, equality and fraternity. That is possible only if Indian society remains inclusive. That is possible only if Indian society remains democratic. If society becomes despotic, if society becomes undemocratic, if society walks along the road of dictatorship or any kind of autocratic authoritarian rule, forget about your writing, etc. Nationalism versus communalism. Ambedkar said once, and I think we should take note of all of that. I'm not talking about the Dalits. Unfortunately, nationalism has developed a new doctrine in India. This was in relation to Ambedkar was demanding separate electorate, representation to in the legislatures. Muslim League was demanding, and Gandhi was absolutely not accepting that. Ambedkar said, राष्ट्रवाद की जो व्याख्या हम कर रहे हैं, उसमें राष्ट्रवाद हमें इसे बताते हैं कि मेजॉरिटी के हाथ में पूरी राजकीय सत्ता रहने का मतलब, और माइनॉरिटी ने कोई भी सत्ता में हिस्सा मांगना, दैट इज कम्युनलिज्म. Unfortunately, nationalism has developed a new doctrine, monopolizing the entire political power in the hands of majority is called nationalism. And any claim by the minority to share the power is called communalism. And the last point, if you consider the form and the content of a literary creation, form and the content, substantial part of Dalit literature has been in poetry and autobiographies. This is my broad observation without going into the details. Why is it that to that if not that proportion, but the 10% of the literature that is appeared in the poetry, form of poetry, and the autobiographies, why you are not 10 or 15% coming in form of the novels? I am just sharing my perception after reading two novels in my whole life influenced me most. One, War and Peace, and second, Crime and Punishment of Dostoevsky. I don't know Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment has been translated in Indian languages. If it is not, it was the greatest mistake on the part of the literary personalities. I would share, and I think with his writing novel, as I understand, requires a different kind of intellectual tenor. I am not commenting those who have not written. This is my perception. This is just a layman's speculation. Compared to poetry and compared to autobiography, novel is altogether different structure. Autobiography is creation. Everybody is not writing autobiography. Experiences is the same, but depiction will be different. Okay? Autobiographies are extremely important, influential, etc., etc. Poetry, words are spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. One poem can shake mountains. Having said this, that creation of novel, its structure, its theme, its center, its periphery, the experiences, the events, the plots, it's altogether final finished product, if I would say so. Plays, for example, मराठीमध्ये मला माहीत नाही आता एक दत्ता भगत आणि काय लोक सोडले वगैरे तर after reading entire Shakespeare at the age of 40, whole Shakespeare, I came to the conclusion that people, I do not know whether you feel Shakespeare is great or not, etc. But then, having read even Kalidas, okay, Vikramoorvashiyam and Shakuntal, etc., etc., I think he was great, no doubt in my mind, I think Shakespeare was absolutely unique for one simple reason. All plays of Shakespeare, the basic defining characteristic, conflict of mind. In one sentence, in Hamlet, to be or not to be, Shakespeare has become immortal. Everybody, every human being in his or her life, at least on one occasion, confronts the question to be or not to be. Take Hamlet, take Macbeth, and anything for that matter. Thank you very much for listening, whatever stray thoughts and just speculation.